Hi everyone, my name is Chris Wagner and I am the Manager of Outreach at Youth Service America. I want to welcome you to YSA's Getting Ready for Global Youth Service Day 2014 webinar. I'm super excited to be a part of this webinar because it aligns directly with YSA's mission and vision. The best youth service projects are those projects designed, planned, and implemented and managed by young people. Thus, we have gathered a stellar panel of youth leaders from across the country who have taken a leadership role in their organizations and made service an important part of their lives. The panelists will describe their roles in the organization they work with and best practices they want to pass on when planning their service projects. A link of today's webinar and a PDF version of the PowerPoint slides will be sent to everyone who registered. I'll also share my email address at the end of the webinar for any additional questions we don't get to tonight. At YSA, we believe in youth changing the world. The mission of Youth Service America, or YSA, is to support young people ages 5 to 25 in planning, implementing, and managing meaningful youth service projects. One way YSA realizes its mission is through mobilization campaigns like Global Youth Service Day. YSA also engages its mission through organizations and youth-focused grants like the Disney Friends for Change and the State Farm Good Neighbor Student Achievement Grant. YSA also supports its mission through its resources and trainings like the Youth Changing the World Toolkit, which equips youth to lead high-quality, high-impact service projects. In addition, YSA celebrates the achievements of youth through its youth-focused awards such as Everyday Young Heroes. I invite you to visit and explore YSA.org and GYSD.org to learn more about the wide varieties of campaigns, grants, downloadable resources, trainings, and awards offered by YSA. We have two goals today. The first is to introduce you to GYSD.org and its functionality. After the webinar, definitely take some time to explore the resources and tools available to you through the site in planning your Global Youth Service Day and other youth service projects. The second goal is to learn from 4 young community leaders how they are making a difference in their communities through meaningful service and best practices they have learned and utilized in planning and managing their own projects. What is Global Youth Service Day? Global Youth Service Day, or GYSD, celebrates the millions of young people who improve their communities each day of the year. As the largest service event in the world, GYSD is the only day of service dedicated to children and youth. This year, Global Youth Service Day will take place from Friday, April 11th to Sunday, April 13th, 2014. During GYSD, young people work together with schools, youth organizations, faith-based groups, national service programs, government agencies, and adult mentors to change their communities through service. There really aren't any limits on what a GYSD project can be. It can be one person making a difference in their community or a team of 50. The main idea is that the project should be something you are passionate about and see as a need in your community. Past GYSD projects, for example, have addressed hunger, literacy, and the environment. The mission of your GYSD project is up to you. When you first go to GYSD.org, you can create a profile and log in either through email, Facebook, or Twitter. GYSD.org is the central place where YSA can show the scope and scale of Global Youth Service Day. On the site, you will also find ideas for service projects, free downloadable resources that help you plan and implement your service project, logos, templates, and social media functions to help you raise the visibility of your project and organization. And last but not least, the ability to connect with service projects all over the world through the GYSD.org map. Last year alone, over 5,000 projects in 135 countries were registered on the map. The site has a section dedicated to project ideas where you can find resources and examples of the kinds of service projects that you are passionate about. At YSA, we believe the best service projects are those that are important to you and your community. Global Youth Service Day, though, isn't just about service projects. GYSD is also a time to celebrate and share the year-round contributions youth make in improving their communities, while also recognizing youth as our future leaders and a vital resource in their community. On the site, you can explore ideas and examples of how to include a celebration event with your GYSD activities. In addition to creating your own projects, you can also use the site to find GYSD events close to you that you can join. As advocates for youth programs and service, in order to show the world the scope and impact of Global Youth Service Day, please register your GYSD service projects and celebration events on the site's map. Once you register your project, there are several tools available to you to help you manage and increase the visibility of your GYSD activities. When you register your project, there's an optional RSVP function that will allow the public to sign up for your event. This will give you an idea of how many will be attending. Once your project is registered, you can easily utilize Facebook, Twitter, and other social media to help you raise the visibility of your project and organization. Also, once your project is registered, the general public and media will be able to search and find your events. As you plan and implement your GYSD project, please share your story with us. You can email me at cwagner@ysa.org with your story of service. Also, check out our story assistant tool that is designed to help you tell your story. On this page, you can also read stories of service from all over the world, check photos from the Flickr feed, and see the results from GYSD last year. Be sure when you upload your photos to Flickr to tag them GYSD. Before I turn the webinar over to the panel, I want to share with you the various social media tags, hashtags, and Twitter handles you can use during Global Youth Service Day, or really anytime you are engaging youth service. Please use these. We love to hear from you, and when we can, share your projects through our channels. Also, a great best practice in planning service projects is to think about how you engage social media in order to raise the visibility of your project and organization. This might be a good place to start. If you don't have all of these, no worries. Like I said earlier, I'll be sending a PDF version of the slides to everyone who registered for the webinar. YSA believes that the best, most meaningful, and beneficial projects are those planned, led, and implemented by youth. Youth are our most vital resource, our future leaders, and already make important contributions to their community. I'd like to now introduce you to our first speaker this evening. After each presentation, we will have time for a couple of questions. If you have a question, please type your question in the question box in your webinar control panel. Introduce Christine. Christine is a sophomore in high school and will be sharing with us from Ashland, Virginia. She is a youth director for Global Youth Service Day with the Hanover County Department of Community Resources. So, Christine, I'm going to let you take over. Just let me know when you want me to change the slide, and I'll do that for you, okay?
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Christine. You want to flip to the next slide, Chris? Hi, I'm a 10th grader at Patrick Henry High School. I've been in Girl Scouts for about 11 years, participating in Global Youth Service Day projects for many years, and this is my second year in planning our kickoff party related to Global Youth Service Day here in Hanover. And this is my first year being a Global Youth Service Day Youth Director. In planning Global Youth Service Day here in Hanover, we like to use 3 different groups to make sure that the whole Global Youth Service Day experience is enjoyable for everyone. We like to use our Youth Planning Coalition, our Leadership Corps, and our Adult Partner Coalition to carry out the various steps in making sure Global Youth Service Day is a success. The Youth Planning Coalition is a group of kids who sign up and come together at different meetings and make decisions on our kickoff party. These kids make decisions on what music we'll have, what different projects we can do during the kickoff party, and then they also, during these meetings, do a mini service project to help our community. In the past, we've made felt boards, and we've done no-sew blankets. And we do all this in planning Global Youth Service Day so that when people come to sign up for different projects, they can have a great time. In advertising for this, we use the various school newspapers, and we also have kids put announcements out during their school hours. We use posters in libraries and press releases, and also the Hanover Review, which goes out to every family in Hanover, so everyone is very informed of what's going on, and so we can get tons of people to come. This year, I am leading the youth meetings and planning our kickoff party. I explained to the kids what Global Youth Service Day is and how they can really get involved. Also, what is the kickoff party, and also what we will be doing during that meeting to set up Global Youth Service Day. And I also lead them through the various activities we have planned. All right, next slide. How I'm involved in the kickoff party is I will be there with many people who work with Global Youth Service Day, and we'll all make sure people sign in, make sure all the organization's paperwork is done, make sure the booths have what they need, and make sure everyone is feels welcomed and has a great time that day. I'll also take many photos like you see in the slideshow here. This was last year, and we all had such a blast, and we'll just make sure it all runs smoothly. The Leadership Corps is a workshop we have for kids who want to start their own Global Youth Service Day project. This is also run by kids in the community who have done projects before, and they just help kids go through the steps of finding out a project they want to do and then actually getting it started by contacting people at their school or other officials in their community. They just really help the kids figure out how to do it so that it's a success on Global Youth Service Day. This was our past Leadership Corps meeting, and everybody had great project ideas that day. And the Adult Partners Coalition is our last little piece. These are actually the organizations and agencies that set up booths at the kickoff party. These are the people who hold projects on Global Youth Service Day, and what they do is they send us applications for the projects, and we process them and do follow-up phone calls, and then invite them to our kickoff party so they can promote their projects and have kids from the community sign up so they can serve on Global Youth Service. Okay. After Global Youth Service Day, we'll call the agencies to follow up with them. One of the questions we ask is how many people showed up to their project, and another is what they accomplished at the project. So next year, when they sign up, we can get a feel for what's going to happen, and just so we can make sure all is a success with the kickoff party and their booth. Next slide, please. Oh, and actually, that's the end of my slides. So thank you. I hope it was informational, and thank you, Chris.
I got you on the phone. So I'm Brienne Togi, and I'm representing Minnesota FCCLA. And I am a senior at Lake Park Audubon High School. I'm involved in several different activities, as are a lot of youth these days, also in like NHS, band, choir, jazz band, 3 sports in volleyball, basketball, track, 4-H, and Knowledge Bowl, just to name a few. I've been part of the organization FCCLA for 6 years. I have been a chapter officer for 3 years. I was Region 6 Vice President, and I'm currently the Vice President of Community Service for Minnesota FCCLA, which is how I got affiliated with YSA. Next slide, please. Just a little heads up for those of you that don't know about FCCLA. Stands for Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America. It's been around since 1945, but been around in Minnesota since 1946. And then it's in all 50 states and Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. And it works at a national level and then at a state level, which I'm affiliated with, but I'm also working in my local chapter. And we're notable for those red blazers you see there. Next slide, please. This is about how we get our youth involved. And one of the things is that we have officer positions. At the national level, there are 10 national officers. State level in Minnesota, we have 8 officers. And your local level just depends on, there's 8 regions in Minnesota, and then each region has 5 officers. But then you have chapters, which are pretty much schools, and they have their own officers. Officers get to come up with ideas, they plan and organize, and they have an advisor to mentor the youth. So that kind of works out. As a state officer, I have one advisor with me, and that really helps keep me on track, and that way you have a great one-on-one relationship to have the adults working with the youth. The students, like I said, organize the events. Oh, you can go back, please. Okay. Students organize the events and make sure that when you're doing the events, make it fun and make it original. There I have just some events and a good recognition for events, like I have the parade down there, and that's also to publicize events, and then selling cookies and baking cookies was kind of an interesting, fun event to get members involved. Next slide, I talk about some of our other fun activities that you could try for yourself to just kind of do community service. Mainly these were like raising funds, not directly hands-on service, but it works either way. In the top left, there is a cabin fever night. and proceeds to that went, well, it was just like a fun night for students to come hang out. In the top right was a haunted hallways night, so we decorated our high school and made it kind of scary. A lot of youth came out to support that, and other community members got involved if you have like a common interest between people. And dances in the lower left are always favorable among students. In the center, we were raising money for the American Cancer Society, so we had students take pledges to shave their heads and legs, and some people shave their armpits for the American Cancer Society. And then in the bottom right, we have a trick-or-treating for troops night, where students went out and gathered treats to send overseas to the troops. And those are just fun events that you could try out and that I've done locally in my FCCLA chapter. And those have raised funds for various different groups like the American Cancer Society, American Diabetes Association, Ronald McDonald House, etc. Next slide. And how FCCLA works, we work on the national, state, and local level, like I said. In national FCCLA, there's over 200,000 members nationwide, and there's over 5,500 schools involved in that. Each year, they pick a national outreach project, and these are just some of the past few years that we've had. They usually they went for just 1 year, but then they kind of extended it now. And that's how much money that Nationals has raised for each of those projects. Currently, we're working with the Share Our Strength, Milk It Hungry campaign, and that'll be continued to 2016. Next slide. Then we have service on our state level, and a lot of the state projects come from our national outreach projects. And but there has also been other projects on the state level, like Books for Jamaica, Tide Blankets, Little Dresses for Africa, donating to metro area food banks, and school supply drives. And occasionally there's an on-site service project with FCCLA. One of the things that we've run into in the past, I've heard from other people, I wasn't personally involved in that, but when they did the book drive for Books for Jamaica, they got all the books there, but they forgot to factor in the expenses for sending the books to Jamaica. So think of all the expenses too. Sometimes it's not just the tangible items, but it's the monetary need as well. Next slide. Then we have service on the local level, and these chapter service projects are decided by the students, and members get to decide the projects based on what they're interested in. Mainly on this local level, they choose local charities, and then they get to see the direct results from it. And oh, I'm sorry. And they go throughout the year. FCCLA is unique in that way because we don't do typically one big service project like Global Youth Service Day. We focus on little things throughout the year, and then we have a big celebration at the end. A big signature event is what Global Youth Service Day would call it. An example is the Children's Miracle Network, because they've done different things, like they did the Cookies for Children event, selling cookies to raise funds for the Children's Miracle Network. Then they were part of a telethon. They sold mulch for a miracle. Then they had dress-up days where students wore red and gold. And then they delivered the check to the hospital. So different things like that, kind of incorporating little events to kind of get the community involved. And if they already know what's going on, then they're continuing to support it throughout the entire process. FCCLA is usually really good about promoting service events, and it's important. They're easy to submit news and press releases, like I said, and getting radio interviews and hooking up with legislatures and contacting them, it's really easy. You just, when you finally get that connection, make sure those people do a good job or they won't be wanted back. So when you finally get those radio interviews, when you finally get to meet with the legislators, have great representatives go meet with them and be able to publicize and promote your idea and your event so that it reflects positively on your group. And you can ask businesses for support and affiliation with the organizations, because it will cause advertising for them, and people will support the businesses that support you. If they see that FCCLA students are making a difference in the community, that they were the ones raising the funds for the American Cancer Society, then they'll be like excited to have another business supporting them and then jointly support that business. And it gets positive recognition for them and increased businesses. And anything else? Billboards, they're a little more expensive, but you can see a picture in the top right corner, and that was, you can usually buy it. Last time I did a billboard for FCCLA, it was $500, but that's in our region, I guess, $500 for a guaranteed month. And then if another group doesn't purchase it by the next month, then you can continue to have it up there. And word of mouth is always great to promote your event, and just talking to people and getting out there. Some things about how to plan your event. FCCLA has a planning process, and then YSA has what I equated it to the FCCLA planning process, and they're basically essentially the same thing. You need to identify what the concern is, what you want to help out with. And this is great for the youth to think about, and not only in community service projects, but really in anything. But identify the concerns. So you can think of a local concern. You can think if there was something that happened, if there was like the Hurricane Katrina back a few years ago, and identifying that. Then you can kind of set your goal, like you want to raise this much funds in how much time, and you form your plan on how you're going to do that and how you're going to achieve your goal. Make sure that you're specific with those plans and identifying the questions like who, what, where, when, why, and how you're going to do it. Then you have your act, and your follow-up is evaluating your project. Then you make improvements, you thank the people involved, and you recognize the participants. That's part of YSA's planning process that I like a lot, is that they celebrate, and they also demonstrate, because then they can teach others how to replicate their projects, and you celebrate your success, and you can thank all your supporters, and you can make plans to continue and expand upon those projects. So briefly, just talk about then my Minnesota 2014 Global Youth Service Day event. Typically, like I said, FCCLA isn't known for having, at least in Minnesota, for having one big event, and they usually have the smaller events throughout the year and kind of focus on those. And as Vice President of Community Service and attending YSI, the Youth Service Institute in Baltimore this fall, I was really kind of inspired to have a Global Youth Service Day event. It's going to be a lot of fun because it'll be at our state conference, which just happens to be over Global Youth Service Day in April. So that worked out really well. And all of our members in the state will be there. It'll be around 2,500 members and youth coming together. And what I have labeled it is Bedtime Ballroom Bash. And like I said, with Nationals this year, we're teaming up with Share Our Strength, No Kid Hungry. And that's going on to 2014. And it's going to be a fun event with service learning. Typically, our bedtime and curfew is 11:30 at our hotel, but we're going to push back the curfew for a good cause. And then students will be able to attend the event by paying money, and then we'll also talk about, we'll have speakers about Share Our Strength, giving statistics about Share Our Strength and hunger in Minnesota, in our own communities, and U.S. to help that out. And it's just going to be a great time. Students will get to stay up about an hour and a half past their curfew. And it's just something, getting students involved. If you make it kind of like convenient for them, they're more likely to get involved with it. It doesn't take a lot for them to pay $3 to $5 to get into an event, to stay up an hour past curfew. They can skip an hour of sleep to help out a good cause. It's convenient for them. It's something they want to do. They don't want to do it, but they just had, we have a dance at the end of the night, and they're not ready to go to bed, and it's just going to be a fun night. and I'm pretty excited about it. That's our Global Youth Service Day signature event that I'll be going on to Global Youth Service Day to register fairly soon. And that about wraps it up.
Christine and Brienne, I've got a couple of questions here I want to go through, and I think the first couple are for Christine, but so let's do these first. Brienne, you got another couple of minutes before you got to get to your basketball game?
Yep, I'll be good.
Okay. Christine, how many people do you usually get to volunteer at your event, your GYSD events?
It's quite a few people. I'm not definite on the number. We have the kids from the Youth Planning Coalition who come and help out, and then we have all the different agencies who sign up to promote at the kickoff party. So it's not a definite number that I can give you, but I can get back to you.
No, that's okay. Yeah, and so Victoria wanted to know too, and I answered her, but I want to make sure I have it right. You hold the GYSD kickoff party before GYSD, right?
Yes, and I put it in the chat box. I tried to answer it, and
okay.
Yes, the kickoff party is about 30 days before, and it's really a chance for the organizations to sign up and come to promote their projects, so the kids that come to the kickoff party can sign up so they can participate on Global Youth Service Day. So ours is on the 15th this year, and Global Youth Service Day is the week from the 11th to the 13th. So it's a good month before.
Right on. And then Elena also wanted to know, yeah, she said something to the effect of, what I mean is you don't hold an event, but you have other groups set up projects and facilitate the sign-up process. But I think you do both. You include outside organizations as part of your coalition, but Hanover County also does its event too, right?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay, very cool, very cool.
And I forgot to say at the beginning my story. I seriously just got involved in helping with this because last year I was part of the planning coalition, and I thought it was so cool how they were making such a difference in our community. And I just talked to the leader, Laura, and asked, how do I get involved? And she was so friendly and helpful that now I'm here on this conference call, and it's so exciting for me, and it's so easy to get involved, and I encourage everyone to just ask somebody. And even my friend invited me to the Youth Planning Coalition, and I had nothing about it, knew nothing about it, but now I'm this involved, and I just encourage everyone to just ask.
Very cool, very cool. Belinda has a question. Is a kickoff party required or just to boost to GYSD? And I think I can answer this one, Belinda. This is the way Hanover County does it. And they've been a grantee of YSA for several years now, and so they hold this kickoff party to bring organizations in to build support as they then, through that next month, plan together their GYSD events. Let's see, Brienne, Karen Cross wanted me to tell you I love the suggestions that are appropriate for a one-time event and motivation to make it a bigger, more connected, and our ongoing event as well. Thanks, Brienne. So get a call out there. Anyone else have any questions for Christine and Brienne before we go to the next speaker? Last question here, and this is a really good one from Marissa. What is the most effective way to get volunteers to come to a GYSD event? So why don't you both give a best practice that you've used to help get volunteers to come to an event?
Going to be at state conference, but typically, like I said, if it's convenient for them to do the service project and if they're already there, and having them do fun events. The events that I listed were just kind of crazy out there, like haunted hallways events, and students, I don't know, that I'm affiliated with, just like the kind of scary aspect. That's something that youth can really resonate with, and students like to dance, and it's make them fun and interesting, something that isn't done with other, like their peers shaving their armpits for cancer, American Cancer Society. That really gets them going, and it just those quirky, fun things that not typically seen is what our youth are looking for.
Very cool, Brienne. And I'm guessing, you know, for any of the adults who are listening who are trying to, you know, think about how they can get their youth involved. I'm guessing, you know, in order to know that shaving your armpits for cancer, you gotta talk to youth to find out, okay, what's fun, what's interesting, what would you like to do, what are you passionate about? I'm guessing that's a big part of that process of deciding what you're going to do for GYSD that's going to attract students to come.
And that's what FCCLA is about, because we don't have adults planning our activities. We have the youth coming up with the ideas. FCCLA is a youth-led organization. That's what we are, and that's how our activities get planned.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Christine, do you have a best practice you'd like to share in getting youth to attend a GYSD event?
Sure. I definitely say use other kids to advertise for the events. Have them posted on their social media. Definitely put up things in the schools or other kid-friendly places. And then make whatever you're doing something that all kids will want to do. Kids with disabilities, kids that are younger, and kids that are older. So definitely just plan it towards the kids and get as many kids to plan it as you can. And definitely use the social media and the other things kids are using nowadays, because that'll definitely attract people.
Very cool, very cool. Okay, Christine and Brienne, thank you so much for being part of the webinar. We're going to move now to Kathleen Doyle, and let's see if I can get this to work for us. Kathleen, can you hear me?
Hello, I'm here, Chris.
Yes, it worked. Awesome.
First time.
Very cool. So Kathleen is also from Virginia. She's a graduate student at the Virginia Commonwealth University in the School of Social Work, and is an intern at Hanover County Department of Community Resources, where Christine also serves at. So Kathleen, take it away.
All right, thanks, Chris. I appreciate it. So I am 24 years old, so technically on the upper end of your youth range spectrum. Like Chris said, I am studying clinical social work at VCU. This is my first year being involved with Global Youth Service Day, so I'm excited to bring a fresh perspective to Hanover County's GYSD initiatives. I got my undergrad degree in psychology, and then after that I worked for 2 years in a middle school providing therapeutic day treatment to at-risk youth. The collage that you see on the left was made from some of my colorful and vibrant middle schoolers, so they'd be very excited to know that their drawings are now famous within the webinar community. And the picture on the right is me. This summer I went to Bikram yoga teacher training, and I teach 4 to 5 classes per week while in school, so I do manage to keep busy. You can hit me up if you need some breathing exercises for when GYSD planning and organizing gets stressful. I'm all about self-care and balance, so those are personal passions of mine. I'm especially excited this year to help out in seeking involvement from youth not traditionally asked to serve. I've seen really firsthand how community service can benefit this population. And you know, like Christine was saying, she was really proactive in asking how to help and how to be involved. I would say kind of as my best practice to just talk to people and ask them if they would like to be involved in community service. I plan to kind of spearhead these initiatives by connecting with our project hosts to ensure that projects are friendly towards youth of all abilities, and also make sure that there's opportunities for kids who are young, may not have transportation, and students in the juvenile justice system. One way I'm going to do this is by talking to potential project leaders about ways that they can adapt, expand their projects in a way that's not only inclusive but also equally beneficial for their organization. We're going to register and coordinate some projects out of our office, like Project Linus, which is blanket making, or the making of yoga flashcards, to ensure that there's some opportunities right off the bat that we know of that all youth could participate in. Of course, also we want to encourage the youth voice and leadership, particularly for kids who aren't normally involved in service. So I'm also going to ask youth in groups that are not traditionally in those categories asked to serve about developing and leading their own projects. For example, I plan to reach out to the Young Life Capernaum, which is a faith-based group of youth of all abilities who meet weekly for fellowship and activities to see if they'd like to join GYSD and do their own projects. And we can also guide them to the YSA resources that'll be extremely helpful to them in planning projects. Next slide, por favor. Okay, social media. Yes, I'll be spearheading the initiatives to connect youth with opportunities via our department's newly established Facebook and Twitter accounts. Sorry, Brienne, for asking you that tough question. My one fear is that someone would ask me a question that I didn't know the answer to, and there I go asking Brienne the difficult question. But yeah, I asked because getting that up and running, I plan to communicate about project registration, how to sign up to volunteer, what projects are out there, and what students are doing for their GYSD projects. Kind of a neat piece of technology is the site listed there, Hootsuite. It enables you to schedule tweets to go out at a certain point when you are not there. For example, my internship, I'm there on Mondays and Tuesdays, so I can set up all the tweets that need to go out over the week. So it's not really heavy on days that I'm there, for example, and bare for a couple days afterwards. So it's really a neat social media management tool that's also free, by the way. Next slide, please. Oh, and our handle is at, it was on the first slide if you want to go back and look, but it's at serve_Hanover. So I'll also be working with Laura and Christine to help organize and engage the GYSD Planning Coalition meetings that ultimately lead to a good, successful kickoff event to help to recruit participants. And I'll also be assisting by contacting the project hosts to confirm the details of the projects, rewriting descriptions, entering data on the GYSD site, and helping up with follow-up data analysis. I'm really excited to be involved in this project because ultimately my goal is to become a school social worker. So I'm excited to learn from everyone involved. Oh my gosh, my phone is buzzing. Got some new followers. Social media works. Thanks, guys. You're making my night. So yeah, that's about it. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to give them a go.
Awesome, awesome, Kathleen. I love the piece about serving youth not traditionally asked to serve. I think that's super important, and a component to anyone's GYSD projects or activities that if you just take some time to research and think about and look online for examples and ideas, you can find some great ones to ensure that you're reaching all youth. And the other thing with Brienne is I shared Brienne's Twitter handle. It is at Brianne_Hoagie. That's @ BREANN_HOGIE. Just in case you didn't see that in the chat box, we have her handle there. And yeah, definitely type in your questions here if you have any questions. Karen Cross, I want to share this real quick. Let's see, Karen wanted me to say that they have had a lot of success in inviting high school groups, such as service groups or college-bound groups, to attend their events. So definitely researching what are the service groups in high school, what are the fraternity service groups at your local college, inviting them to come to your GYSD events. I think that's a great idea. Let's see, Elena has a question for outdoor projects and contingency plans. She lives in Vermont. April's an iffy month. It's the wet season here in the States for us. So if anyone has any ideas on different activities or different plans to make in case the weather's not good, definitely chat her up there and see if you have an answer for her. Okay, cool. So Karen has another question, and this one's for you, Kathleen.
Okay.
She says, I love your idea of asking youth not usually invited to serve that will empower them to go through an organization or special needs. Okay, so that will empower them. Do you go through an organization or special needs school? What do you suggest to reach them to invite them? So I think she's saying, you know, where should you reach out to them? Yeah.
The how component. Well, of course, that's going to vary based on your locality. I think just kind of brainstorming the groups that serve and are engaged with these groups. You know, one of our main strategies overall is kind of creating partnerships with the schools, and by that you can ask them to spread the word to certain groups. On one occasion, for example, we got an email from a parent who is linked with her middle schooler has autism, and she's really connected to a lot of the other parents in the community with children that might need accommodation, and she was talking about how they would love to be involved. So just kind of, I feel like it's something people will ask about if you promote well, and then you can follow up with accommodations. Also, we're right by the social services building, so it's easy to ask about anyone who has, for example, court-mandated volunteer hours. In Hanover County, there's what's called positive action clubs. So yeah, I guess just like you said, researching the groups that are in the area, strengthening the partnerships with the schools, and then just kind of putting the word out and, you know, letting people know that there's help to planning projects, accommodations can be made. This is the first year we've had it as kind of a specific initiative, so a lot of it is kind of just learning by doing and seeing how it goes, kind of reflecting on what works best for us, and hopefully we'll be inspired with even more ideas for next year.
Hey, Kathleen, that's so cool, and I think, and we need to talk about this offline, but I'd like if you'd be willing to write a GYSD blog piece or story about the initiative, what you're doing, how you've gone about doing it. I think that would be really helpful, and I'd love to put that on GYSD.
Yeah, sure thing.
Okay.
Sure thing.
Very cool. It's 7:52, so I want to go ahead and move forward. I have a couple more questions here, but I'm going to go ahead and move to our last speaker of the evening. And let me get you set up here, David. All right. Let's see. David Werewine, let me unmute you here. David, are you there?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, David, loud and clear.
Can you hear me now?
Very good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sweet. All right, cool. Thanks, Chris. Great presentation so far, y'all. Like, it's really cool. I have some ideas. Like, I'm going to incorporate y'all's stuff into mine. I am originally from the Twin Cities in Minnesota. I'm now at Tulane University in New Orleans. I'm 20 years young, not old, because we are celebrating Youth Day and on Global Youth Service Day. And I'm really passionate about public education and service learning. If you relate to any of those things, please hit me up. You have my email there, and you have my Twitter handle, Eurosphere. Yeah. So next slide, please. I'm going to be summarizing basically my experience as youth and service roles, and the way I've done that is I've created a sort of continuum that I want y'all to think about and maybe place yourselves on. Continuum of your role in as a youth in performing service. And so I would say at one end of that continuum is youth as participants and volunteers. And like picture a stock photo of like a large group of people, probably youth, but there might be some adults in there too, like doing a service project, but I don't know, maybe like in a garden, doing labor, or they're picking up trash on the side of the road. That's what I would describe as like a person or volunteer type of youth role in service. And that's a great place to start. I really believe that that's a great place to start and get people thinking about service and what it means. But if we really want to elevate youth as change makers, we have them just be participants and volunteers. We have to elevate them as change makers. So one of the goals I've suggested for growth on that stage is to inspire youth and foster relationships between them. And I would say the way to do this is by having them reflect on their service experiences. This definitely happened to me when I participated in a Pay It Forward tour, a sort of community service road trip, if you can imagine what that looks like, through Students Today, Leaders Forever, based out of Minneapolis. And it consisted of basically doing service for half a day and then traveling for half a day to a different location and spending the night somewhere in like a church. And at night we would like do team building activities, but we'd also reflect on our service experiences. And so we talked about what's tangible service, how many pounds of dirt did we move today, what's intangible service, putting a smile on someone's face. And so it really helped us to get a better sense of what service means to the community. So once you have inspired youth and fostered relationships, I think you can go to the next stage, which would be the next slide, please. Great. And this would be youth as community resources for service projects. And this is the stage youth begin to become aware of the issues in their community. So for example, you might be a student in a classroom and your teacher is trying to plan something, and you know of an agency that they've never heard of that y'all can partner with to help tackle this issue. That might be one way. Or you know of an adult in your neighborhood who's trying to organize an event to bring down rates of obesity, and you offer your help. I think the three ways that you can probably do this by performing outreach, by being a consultant, and by evaluating the value of the service. And we've had some really good examples actually from Christine and Brienne about outreach and consulting. So I really like the billboard that Brienne demonstrated. Like I think that would be an example of outreach that's saying, hey, we're here to serve you. But it's getting like youth are going to look at that billboard and be like, whoa, I know those kids. Like, how do I get involved? That's a really great way, I thought. You can also be a consultant, and there were a ton of great examples that Brianna and Christine gave. And I really like the Youth Planning Coalition that Christine talked about, and how like the youth get to choose the music for the event. And in that sense, you're really having the youth evaluate the appropriateness of the activities. And I really, really, really like the bedtime ballroom bash idea. Like, let's just be real. I don't know how many youth, or sorry, how many adults would think of that. And I can really see youth getting very excited about that. So I think in that sense, youth can serve as consultants. I also think that in this stage, youth can help evaluate the value of the service. So they can be like, did we make an impact? And what was the value of that impact in our community? Next slide, please. Well, I'm going to have to gloss over this one really quick because we don't have a whole lot of time. But I also think part of the youth as community resources would be being educated about the issues in your community, so identifying what's going on, and then forming a team and a plan to address what's going on. Yeah, so next slide, please.
Hey, David, I was going to say, go ahead and if you wanted to talk some more on it, if we take another 5 or 10 minutes, that's fine.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, that'd be great, actually, because I want to spend a little bit more time on the identify and address. So the identify, actually, I think the identifying, I'm saying, is synonymous for like getting educated about the issues in your community. Sort of parallels the discussion Brienne made about how to plan for a service project, and she showed the FCCLA way to plan and the YSA way to plan and how they're very similar. And the first step was like pick an issue, but you can't pick an issue without like knowing what your community needs. So these are photos of they're stock photos, aren't they? But no, these are people I actually knew at the National Youth Leadership Training, which is put on by NYLC every summer, the National Youth Leadership Council. And I grew tremendously during this experience, but I learned the definition of achievement gap. I learned the definition of service learning, and I learned about how you can use service learning to address the achievement gap. But most importantly, I took the initiative during, it was a sort of summer camp-like experience. I took the initiative to learn about how the achievement gap, how it occurs in my home community. And the photo on the right is a team from Ionia, Michigan, and they have a youth advisory council that, among other projects, they take grant applications, take grant application and evaluate the proposals, and then give out grants as they see fit. And so that's a team that came to the National Youth Leadership Training, and that's them planning a project to take home. So yeah, could I have the next slide, please? Great. So maybe the last step on this continuum, maybe a note on that in a minute, but is the servant leadership level. And hooray, like this is the height of youth services as I would describe it, and I think that a lot of the FCCLA are probably at that level. And you'll see a slide in a moment of me and the rest of the Youth Service America Youth Council. But congratulations, there's no more goals for growth because this is probably the height of, you probably are elevated as a leader in youth service. However, at this stage, you will want to be, as a youth, you will want to be identifying and utilizing community members and resources on your own. So in the previous examples, you might have had an adult, in the previous stages, the youth as volunteers and the youth as community resources. You probably have an adult who is like overseeing everything. In this case, it's the youth who are overseeing everything, and that is a beautiful thing. And so the adult actually kind of play a supporting role, and I would argue it's the obligation of the youth to identify adults that they want to work with. Again, this servant leadership would be the point at which you are coordinating all levels of service activities from planning to execution and evaluation. Now, just to note, there are some who start at the servant leadership level, and I have so much respect for them. These are people who look at their community and they say, why don't we have a recycling program? Or if they do have a recycling program, how can we make our recycling program better because it really isn't that great? And so they've already identified an issue, and then they take the steps necessary to identify where they most need to address this issue. So they set up recycling centers at the library and schools and several other community centers. However, I've seen some examples of this, and it appears to me that these youth, while they generally do have the support of probably their parent, they don't necessarily have a leadership team with which to work. And that would be my recommendation for youth to kind of try to go straight for the servant leadership level, is to form a team of peers and or adults with whom you can plan and execute and evaluate. So just a note on this continuum that I described is this is based from my experiences and does not apply to one. However, I do encourage you to set some goals, and either according to my continuum or your own continuum, where you want to be as a youth in a service role. either set a goal for Global Youth Service Day 2014 or maybe for next school year. And hopefully the YSA Youth Council is somewhere in one of those goals. Yeah, we have a picture right here of the YSA Youth Council wearing our funny hats. So yes, if you have any questions about any of this, please let me know. Thank you very much. Oh shoot, I forgot about this one. Really quick, some reasons that YSA offers that I think are great is the Youth Changing the World Toolkit and the Kids in Action Guide. In fact, I was looking at the Kids in Action, like, you know what, like, I would use this. Like, it's supposed to be designed for younger ages, but I would totally use the Kids in Action Guide. I really like page 16 on the youth, in the Youth Changing the World Toolkit, because it makes you step back and see the bigger picture of planning your project. So those are just a couple of resources that YSA offers and I recommend. Thank you.
Hey, awesome, David, awesome. If anyone has a couple of questions, we'll do a couple of questions. I know we're running over here. But David, so much good stuff. I wanted to make sure you had an opportunity to go through everything. And I don't know if you can see it, but Laura Wells from Service Learning Resource Teacher in Fairfax County, she'd like to, well, she wants the slides, but I think she'd maybe also like to maybe connect with you if you have any other resources that you use or you recommend. So maybe if you can send me an email at some point of any, like a list of resources, that would be great. And to second David, one of my favorite resources we have at YSA is Youth Changing the World Toolkit. You can get this for free as a download of a PDF, and then you can print it. You can also order copies of it for free. You only have to pay the shipping. It's amazing. I was a school teacher, a Peace Corps volunteer, and an AmeriCorps volunteer, and I love it. So if everyone today is resonating, meaningful service, engaging youth, having them identify issues, that higher level, Youth Changing the World Toolkit is definitely a great way to go.